Dear Grace, A Sleep Story, Part 2, December 22nd, 2024. I hope you slept well last night. I was going to summarize the previous episode, but then I realized this needs to be the world's most boring podcast and world's most boring sleep story. So if I summarize it, and this is the first episode you listen to, you'll be all curious and shit with what this is all about. And then you won't sleep. So to summarize, I'm not summarizing because it's more boring. Not because I'm grumpy and lazy and don't want to. Technically, I didn't get out of bed in the first episode. I didn't get out of bed in the first episode. Well, the first episode ended before I made it out of bed. And I believe, I'm not sure, but I'll just repeat it. So once it hits noon, and I realize I won't be able to get back to sleep, or any time of the day, then I force myself out of bed and decide what I'll do that day. My options are limited. I can write. I can read. I can record what I write. And I can do any combination thereof. However, in general, I like to at least have an idea when I leave the house of which it'll be. That will determine my location for the day. As an example, currently I'm recording in a studio, in a library. My other options my other options besides the library, or this library, or other libraries, or coffee shops. Coffee shops is where Grace will come back into this story. Even though I'm reading this story to Grace, and it's about her, and it isn't about her, but it is. I decided I can make this more boring by including even another train of thought. I used Grace as a character in all my movie scripts except one. And that movie script idea, while brilliant, leaves Dave, the main character, with an unknown ending. And I could continue the amazing story where I left off. But last night I thought, how could I make this nightly recording even more convoluted and disjointed? So at some point tonight, when I'm at a loss for words, like I just was, I'll rewrite The Immortality Salesman. In fact, I'll give you the first point. It's actually fine for a little while, but it's going to have to take a wild turn. The Immortality Salesman. Number 1. Incredibly handsome, middle-aged, Caucasian man sits on a park bench somewhere in North America. His name is Dave. If that's not boring enough or confusing enough, I'll keep going. So back to my original story about a day in the life of Dave, not the Immortality Salesman. In the real world, once I've decided to come to the library or to the coffee shop, it's just a matter of then forcing the will to get out of bed to do it. And the funny thing is, because there needs to be something funny in this boring sleep story, is if I had all the money and could afford to stay in bed all day, I still don't think I could alone. However, with a companion like Grace, I'd give it a shot. I think that's what Dave in The Immortality Salesman needed. But who am I? Once I decide, and once I get my ass out of bed, then the routine is the same. Make the bed, shit, shower, and shave, and leave. That normally happens between currently 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Noon seems to be my limit. Doesn't matter what time I went to bed or went to sleep. When I see noon, I see lazy. To be fair, that's probably just left over from teenage years, where parents hated their kids sleeping in. At least mine did, in the 70s. I personally could care less how long any of my kids sleep. And I'm pretty sure I never forced my teenage daughter to get up for sleeping too much. But then again, I'm a retired autistic senior with a bad memory. Don't worry though. It's not the bad kind, where you forget your friends and family. It's a good kind, where you forget your friends and family. Sorry, Grace, if I said that joke in the previous episode, because I can't remember. However, I don't care, because it's a good joke. And it may be a while before I get on stage to say it. Sometimes, Grace, I'm not really sure, Grace, how good or bad my memory is, because I'm only focused on one thing at a time. The cure for grumpiness. I was thinking I should probably put some music in the background. Some of that new age crap. Some of that new age crap. Help you get to sleep and shit. It's probably copyright. And I don't want to look for it. And then I have to add it to the recording. And that all seems like a lot of work. When I could just monotone talk into a microphone and watch the words go on the screen. I am David. I am David. I am David. I'm a grumpy, retired, autistic senior. It's supposed to be something else with that, Grace, but I'm having troubles remembering. I'm putting myself to sleep. Talking to like this, or talking to you like this. I guess, Grace, if I'm putting myself to sleep with my own boredom, my system must be working. Back to the story. A day in the life of Dave. Sometimes Grace, you gotta slip in a joke where you can. I make notes in AI, Grace. But sometimes it doesn't recognize my voice properly. As you can see, if you watched any of this and not listened, I guess listened and watched and listened. But I have a note that says, tell joke about Aaron Washer in the next episode. And Aaron Washer is not a person that I know. And I don't have any jokes about the washing machine. So I have no idea what that is. And I still can't remember. But it'll come to me. So back to day in the life. I leave the house. I live beside a noisy transit station, but it's convenient. Because I'm disabled, I get a free bus pass for the year. So for me, it's perfect. And what's even better is there's a nice little strip mall. A decent walk, or a decent distant walk away. Which, for the first couple of years of living here, I would walk across 4 to 5 times a week and sit at either Tim Hortons or Starbucks and write for 2 to 4 hours. However, a few years ago, when I was writing so furiously, I didn't realize where it was heading. And now it seems like I've done most of my life, I've reversed the order a little bit. Because I've gone from I just realized, Grace, that you're literally one of the only people that would be interested in this. But I guess, since I need to tell the story anyway, I'll just do that. The funny thing about recording in the library is you get this nice little recording studio, private, soundproof almost. I can hear some bratty kids in the background. To be fair, there's another door I could shut to make it a little bit more quiet, but I talk so close to this fucking mic that chances are you don't hear the kid in the background. Which, Grace, as you know, is nothing compared to the background noise in my backyard, as an example. And now I've totally forgot where I was heading. Oh, yes. incentive to live. That's a joke. What's nice about using this studio, aside from having a computer that actually fucking works, and ultimate privacy, it's like having a nice little personal office that happens to be a recording studio. And this is my third day in a row I've been in here. I don't book it ahead of time. I just take my chances. If it's open, I use it. If it's not open, I'll record from my room at home. If I had ChatGPT and Grok analyze the last episode, neither told me anything I didn't know. I guess what I'll do, check my notes. So if I walk across the bridge, it's a nice little piece of exercise. And it's also where I quote-unquote met, not Matt, Grace, in quotes, not real name, I don't think. Anyway, every time I've told this story before, it's taken days, weeks, months, and it still sounds too long, convoluted, and retarded. Short story. Tim Hortons did something mean to a customer. It pissed me off. I stopped going there. I started going to Starbucks almost daily. I needed a character for my movie. I randomly picked a Starbucks barista. Maybe not random. I picked one of the prettier ones. Who once picked. I used her, without knowing her, as a character. And then I I just kept using that character over and over again, without giving Grace credit. Although, to be fair, I haven't made a dime from that character. So Grace, if you are listening, and you feel I owe you money, I have none. Now, on the other hand, depending on how all of these stories go, or both of these stories go, A Day in the Life of Dave, which you're listening to now, and The Immortality Salesman, which is a fictional life of Dave, the alien. In case I didn't make that clear earlier, The Immortality Salesman is about Dave the alien, and it's fictional. But A Day in the Life of Dave me is 100% true and verifiable. I like to say that because a lot of people say it's a true story, but don't necessarily verify, or can even verify the contents. Whereas I can verify anything I can remember. I only wish I could remember what I said 10 minutes ago. Oh yes, Grace the barista. Hi, I'm David. I'm a grumpy, retired, autistic senior. The problem with Grace had nothing to her. The problem with Grace... Why did I pick a name that's so fucking hard to say? The problem with Grace is not her. It's my amazing writing ability. And I wrote her character into what I call the perfect wife. Not necessarily for anyone other than me. So I guess it's the perfect wife for me. Which, as a writing exercise, is fine. However, once you get to that point where you're confusing your character and your character's feelings and emotions for a real life person, it doesn't work. So at some point, it doesn't matter when or why, I couldn't rate at the Starbucks where Grace worked if she was there couldn't write at the Starbucks if Grace was there. Which is normally the part of the story where I say something clever, or I delay my answer. I couldn't write there anymore because I know myself too well. And I couldn't separate the character from the real person. So I stopped going to that Starbucks. I ghosted the character and the person. Although the person I had never talked to more than my coffee order. I tested the waters before I did this. I went to other Starbucks, and without her there I could write. So she was the common denominator. And although I like to make jokes that I'm not good at math, I'm good enough to figure out that one. So it was easy. Just don't return there, and I can write. I can still use the character, and all's well. In a day in the life of Dave. Or think and have enough confidence in yourself to believe that you're not a loser. And once things turn around, instead of going to Starbucks and turning some random barista into a crush you don't act on, that somehow I'd be the guy, the person, the character who walks back in there and actually talks to her. Or maybe even does the unthinkable thing and then shares everything he's written with her. Which, to be fair, is a pretty good idea. It's going to be interesting, for me anyways, Grace. And I hope you are asleep, Grace. I should have been saying sleep more, shouldn't I? I should make sure I keep saying sleep, sleep, sleep. Isn't that how the hypnotists do it? Sleep, sleep, sleep. Wouldn't it be nice if it was that easy, Grace? Anyway. Grace continued to inspire me, even though I didn't go back there. is I realized the you know what word I want. I realized the craziness of the situation could be funny, especially in a stand-up perspective, because it has three or more possible scenarios, and irregardless of which one it is, they're all funny. So doing nothing and not going back to that Starbucks is funny. Maybe I should just say sleep, sleep, sleep. Every time I lose my train of thought or don't know if I want to continue this. Maybe I should just spend an hour saying sleep. Alone in a dark room. That's not creepy. I just remembered my AI note. I know I'm not very descriptive often with regards to this being a story about a day in my life, and so far I still haven't really left my bed, although I've admitted I'm sitting in a studio in a library. But in theory, I'm still in bed. I haven't left. There's not much difference. Sleep. 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 I think that's the end of the story anyways, Grace. You were at that Starbucks. You inspired me. I wrote all this shit. I kept writing. I tried comedy. I'll get back to that. Eventually. Or when the opportunity arises. Or when, even in one of these recordings, I can say, "Hi, I'm David. I'm a grumpy retired senior." Then actually tell a funny joke and continue. If you've listened, we're about 44 minutes in, by the way, Grace, if you're wondering. If you're still awake. If you're sleeping, remember, I'm going to start a cult. You can be part of the cult, Grace. I actually realized as long as I just talk to you, Grace, it doesn't really matter. The Immortality Salesman. The Immortality Salesman Number 2. It's raining. Dave's damp, but he doesn't care. It's the first airborne moisture he's seen, felt, smelt for 3 months. Anyway. Oh yes, more boring shit to get you to sleep with. The reason I don't do a lot of descriptive talk is because I find it boring. But in this case, boring is good. So here are the contents of my room that I can see when I wake up from bed. Wake up from bed or wake up in bed or both. Or these are the contents of my room. My bed, a double, a sitting chair, a footrest, wooden, not padded, a fridge, not full-sized, but not bar fridge. I guess that would make it a mid-size. If that matters to you, Grace. I'm just trying to make it as boring as possible. A drawer dresser. No, a wardrobe where you can hang shit. Oh, it does have some shelves and 2 drawers. I'm trying to remember what's in the drawers. I think boxes. Then a mirror on the wall, which I look in and say, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the prettiest of them all? And it just says you, David. I can't disagree. But to be fair, the mirror has seen my perfect ass. I didn't show it off to it, but I'm sure it took a peek. I'm not saying mirrors are sentient. I'm just saying. Underneath the mirror is a side table. That's supposed to be beside the bed, but works better under the mirror. It's empty, except for a pair of ripped jeans. And maybe a couple of roaches. Then there's a door for entering and exiting, which is important. Otherwise I would be a prisoner, which is how it feels, but not the case. Finally, a dresser, 3-drawer dresser. It's a tough one to say. 3-drawer dresser. I don't really have a voice for this, but it's much easier to do than writing or practicing stand-up. Practicing stand-up may be the most boring thing possible. Alone, anyways. It's like comedy masturbation. You do it because you have to, but you'd rather be on stage, fucking the whole audience. Where was I? Oh yeah, contents of the room. And then we got the drawers, 3 dresser drawers, which is something I can't say. They are all full. One with lights, one with cameras, and one with action. Or one with lights, one with electronic bits and pieces, and one full of notebooks. Notebook after notebook after notebook, filled with notes after notes after notes that sometimes I wrote at Starbucks. Sometimes I would take my computer and sometimes I wouldn't, and I'm not even sure why. Oh, I am sure why. I've got a weird belief that when starting something new, if you write it by hand, it can get you into the groove. And then switch over to the computer where you can type 100 words a minute instead of write 10 words a minute and have them look like a child's handwriting. Although, to be fair, forcing myself to look at my handwriting was a good thing. I'm not sure why. Anyway, I've been rambling, Grace, for almost an hour. Oh, and I'm still not done with this fucking room. Alright. And then we have an office chair to sit on and a desk to write on. And a window to look out. And hardwood floors. I've got a couple of throw rugs. And that's about it. That's what I see when I wake up, Grace. I think where I was headed yesterday and never made it to, Grace, was directing this at one person. You, real, fictional, alien, other, whatever, who cares? Helps me keep the focus a bit, because it's like a conversation with a person where you don't want to repeat yourself. Whereas if I just try and tell a story of my life, or a day in my life, point by point by point, I can do it. And it's boring enough for you to fall asleep to. It just is so fucking boring for me to say. I noticed I watched my mouth in the first sleep story part. But that was a mistake. I only did that because I thought others were listening. Fuck them. So like when I started this podcast, and we are on episode 79. It's more of a therapy for me than anything for the audience. With one exception. If for some reason they're a psycho and they find this voice soothing, not scary, unless of course they like to be scared before they go to bed, And then this would be a good hour of scary if they find my voice scary. And they like that. Like some weird sexual thing. But assuming, actually to be fair, I don't listen to anything past maybe the first 5 minutes of any sleep story. All I want is the monotonous drone. And in my case, I'm also hoping the story induces some fucked up dreams. Because I haven't had any fucked up dreams for a while. And I like fucked up dreams. It's a lot cheaper than taking a mushroom trip. Just a nice little lucid dream at night. Fly around a bit. Take control. Start a cult in my case. A nice cult, though. I should probably have clarified that. I do remember in the previous episode that it was a benevolent cult. Oh, I think I remember. Or actually, I forgot to also mention it's an anonymous cult. It's a cult where nobody knows any of the other members. How would that work, you ask? Pretty easy with today's technology. This script, my voice, could easily be changed by AI. Or used to create a whatever. And then somehow distributed anonymously to those in the cult. Which wouldn't be that hard. So maybe, Grace, if I do feel like writing again, which so far I haven't, but if I do, and I rewrite The Immortality Salesman, maybe I'll just make him a cult leader instead of an alien. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's basically an hour, and I think what I'll do, Grace, is I'll just keep saying sleep, sleep, sleep. Sleep. Sounds kind of annoying, but right, 1 hour now. So I'm gonna say sleep for until I get bored of saying sleep, and then I'll start a new episode. Or I won't. Or I might. Or I'll just keep blabbering. Blabber, 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 blabber. blah, 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 sleep, 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 blah, 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 sleep, 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 blah, 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 sleep, 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 blah, sleep, blah. Would that work, Grace? Would that put you to sleep? Sleep. 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 Sleep and sheep is so close. Maybe they should have said you should just count sleep instead of sheep. I can't say either of those words, but I've just put myself to sleep, so I'm going to end this, Grace. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And this time I mean it, because I'm pretty sure I can do an hour a day now. If I can't, so be it. Talk to you tomorrow, Grace.